everybody, it's Eric from epautos.com, your libertarian car guy. And today's video is a demonstration of how little horsepower you actually need to propel a car. And before I get into all of that, I want to couch it with a caveat. Now, everybody who knows me knows that I love fast cars, I love powerful cars. But at the same time, I also think it's kind of silly the extent to which we don't use the power that we have available. And I say we generally, I know some of us do. But the reality is that the way the system's structured, with really brutal and savage punishments and fines for relatively minor transgressions of the speed regime, it's really difficult to make use of even half the capability that's built into the typical new car. Now, I'm driving along here in a $100,000 BMW 7, and for purposes of illustration, I want to show you the gauge here. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. The BMW comes with a kind of interesting scrollable LCD display that shows you horsepower and torque in real time as you drive. In other words, what the engine is actually generating for the road speed that you're driving. Right now I'm doing 60 miles an hour, and if you look at the left needle, the power needle, you will see that it only takes about 60 horsepower to maintain this almost 5,000 pound ultra luxury sedan at 60 something miles an hour, and the torque output is about 110. And if I back off the gas, it virtually goes to zero and coast, so it takes virtually no energy to propel the car once you get moving. Now, I'm going to show you also, I'm going to come down to a stop here. Hopefully there'll be nobody behind me, just so that I can show you this. Now, of course, I'm not going to frantically accelerate. If you really want to accelerate quickly, of course, you need more power. But I'm just going to show you a normal rate of acceleration. Okay, we're at a dead stop, and now I'm accelerating. All right? And I'm not accelerating at a completely cloverific pace. But just to show you, okay, I'm getting up, going up to 30, getting up to 40, and 50. All right, and now I'm at 55, which is the speed limit, and I still haven't gotten over 80 horsepower required to do that. And I'm continuing to accelerate now, just to show you a little bit on the other end of the spectrum. Okay, now I'm doing about 70 miles an hour. And to maintain this car at 70 miles an hour, it takes about somewhere between, well, looks like about 70 to 80 horsepower to do that. This vehicle produces, this has got the diesel engine, so this engine produces 255 horsepower. So what it comes down to is that it only takes about, not even half really, the horsepower that the engine is capable of developing to get this vehicle going up to a reasonable road speed, and to maintain that road speed. I can even give it, let me give it a little bit more pedal. Okay, now I'm giving it about half pedal, and we're getting up to about 100 and something horsepower. Now, it's very foggy, so I can't really go super fast, but suffice to say that for typical A to B driving, okay, I'm just talking about basic transportation, you know, getting out on the road in the morning, going to your job, and in particular, real-world driving, the driving that pretty much everybody has to do, whether you're driving a 911 Turbo Porsche or you're driving a Hyundai Elantra. You're pretty much just schlepping at the pace that the other car ahead of you is traveling. It's hard to go much faster, and it's certainly illegal to go much faster. And if you do, you're going to get nailed to the wall for doing it, unless you're like me and have a V1 and a really well-developed sense of cop-dar. Bottom line, though, is that virtually every new car on the market, and I'm talking about the most humble little economy car, has well over 100 horsepower nowadays, which means that most cars are very overpowered for the kind of driving that they actually see out in the real world. And it gets progressively more ridiculous as you move up the food chain. In particular, in my opinion, once you get into the middle of the road kinds of cars, family cars, Toyota Camrys, Honda Accords, and so on, Nissan Altimas. These cars are now all offering V6 engines that make nearly 300 horsepower. 300 horsepower. If you go back, like a good reference point, for example, remember Magnum PI from the 80s? I'm probably dating myself. You know, at the beginning shows Magnum doing a burnout off the grass in his Ferrari 308. Well, there's a reason he did the burnout off the grass. That Ferrari only had about 200 and something horsepower and couldn't do a burnout on dry pavement, at least not unless you really drop the dump the clutch, rev the engine up to about 8,000 before you let the clutch out. Point being that 300 horsepower would have been considered top-tier, high-performance power in the 80s and even in the 90s. Here's another frame of reference for you, and this isn't like some crickety old geezer talking about low-performance cars to you here. Back in 1995, yeah, it was a long time ago, but back in 1995, Ford gave me a Mustang Cobra R to drive for a week, and it's very memorable to me because it was one of the most enjoyable cars I ever drove. Anyway, that car had a 5.8-liter, 351 cubic inch V8 engine, and it was built purpose-built, excuse me, for SCCA road racing. It had a stripped-down interior, did not have air conditioning or insulation. I had that 351 high-performance V8 and a Tremec 5-speed manual and a heavy-duty suspension. Anyway, that thing only had 300 horsepower. It was a very fast car, too. But the fact is that today, a V6 Accord or Camry, something like that, would give that Cobra a run for the money, 0 to 60, and on the top end, the Mustang would still outhandle it. But in terms of acceleration capability, horsepower produced, very comparable. Well, how many people who drive Camrys or even Accords drive them like an SCCA road racing Cobra competition are? Answer is not many, so it's all pretty preposterous and silly. Anyway, end of rant. There's an article that gets into some of the other things that you don't need and ought to know about up on EP Autos, just posted this morning. Also, a couple of new Clover videos. If you don't know what a Clover is, go to the right-hand side of the main page and look for the Clover symbol, and there's an article there that will explain the whole deal to you. And there are videos of Clovers in action on the left side of the main page. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.